You're listening to We Deepen Media.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Deepen with Christina. I'm your host, Christina Weber, founder and CEO of We Deepen, Feminine Weapon, and also a certified professional coach. Make sure you go to wedeepen.com and check out the calendar, see all types of upcoming social and transformational experiences. We Deepen's mission is to generate more meaningful and healthy relationships. Not only do we do that by inviting you into experiences, we also do that through private matchmaking and relationship coaching. Check out the website. You can see more about that there. Enter the matchmaking database or join us or schedule a discovery call. Let us know how we can best serve you and help you as you navigate your intimacy journey. If you do enjoy this podcast, please do subscribe, like, follow, rate. It helps more people find it and helps me to continue to host it. This podcast today is a very special one. I can't believe it's taken years to get Dilia on the show. And now you get to meet her because in each episode, I started out by introducing myself as the founder and CEO of We Deepen and Feminine Weapon. And I haven't gone so much into Feminine Weapon, maybe here a little bit here and there, but Dilia, who is a dear friend, her and I met about a decade ago in the beginning of this journey, and through an annual event, January 30th being Feminine Weapon Day, this January 2023 will be the 10th annual Feminine Weapon Day. We host a big affair, a fundraising concert experience that acts as a fundraiser for children of abuse, extreme poverty, and human trafficking to receive education, art, and healing programs. Dilia has been working with the children at orphanages for over a decade now. She had, from being a young child, she knew that this is what the work that she was going to do in the world. I believe that, Dilia, you wanted to have an orphanage at one point in your life. Mm-hmm. So excited to have you and share your voice with those who are listening here.
Thank you so much for having me, Christina. I love you so much. And we've been trying to do this for a while, so I'm glad the moment is now. And yes, I'm super excited that Feminine Weapon Day is coming up, the 10th anniversary. That is also marks the 10th anniversary of our friendship. And you have just been the most loving, consistent, supportive human, one of the most in my life, who's seen me through all my ups and downs. And I'm so grateful for all the support you give me and give the work that I do with the children in the world.
Mm-hmm. Let's start with how did you end up on this journey of working with the children? Why?
So ever since I was 9 years old, I had an experience. Actually, I don't think I've ever shared this. I had an experience where there was a lost little baby girl. She's probably 3 years old, in an arcade. And she was so beautiful. And she just grabbed onto my pinky and she's like, I can't find my butter. She had lost her brother. And I just spent this time with this child that I didn't know and was completely in love with in this instant, helping her find her family. And I don't know why that impacted. Wow. I haven't thought about it so long and it's going to make me cry, but it impacted my life in such a profound way. And from that moment on, I was like, I want to help lost children. I want to help orphans. I want to work with children. And it was something that just stayed by my side. I instantly said, I want to adopt and I want to work with children. And that was something that never left me. I mean, throughout the years, I remember 13 telling all my friends, I'm going to work with orphans and I'm going to work with, children. And people would ask me, all throughout your life, people ask you, what do you want to do? What do you want to be? What do you want to do with your life? And I never had a career, I would say I want to help people, you know. And I remember having this conversation with my mom at one point, and she's like, yes, but what about yourself? And I'm like, I know, Mom, I'll help myself, but I want to help people. Like, that's what I want to do, you know. And it was something so that's always been such a constant theme in my life. And I have always helped people. I mean, since I was young, I would do a lot of we would go to convalescent homes and volunteer since I was a child. My grandmother was in a wheelchair, so it was something very close to my heart. Even though she lived far, I would do it, you know, in my nearby community. And we work with special needs children. I remember as a young girl, like our entire school class, I went to a very small Catholic school in this very little town called Reedley, California, where I had about 12 to 15 kids in my class. But we would go and we would work with special needs children, and we just did a lot in the community. It was something that was very present in my life. My father would and mother would take us, you know, sometimes to go visit homeless people and just so we could have an awareness of what really the world looked like, you know. And I remember before I started this intense journey where it became my life to work with orphans and abused children and with those who live in poverty, I had gone to, I pray, you know, and I think you can pray anywhere, but for whatever reason, because of my upbringing, I had gone to this church that was near this job that I had. And I loved the people that I worked with, but I was very unfulfilled in what I was doing in the world. I knew I was capable of doing more. And I just got on my knees and I was like, God, universe, just use me. Use me, like whatever you think I'm supposed to do in this world. I know I can do it. I know I'm capable of more, even if it takes my life. I need to be doing more to serve humanity, to serve this world. And it was in that instance that I was brought into a foundation, that I was able to do the work and have a platform to serve thousands of children, and did so full time for 8 years. I volunteered for 8 years. And it was very life-changing. I mean, would be home, you know, some people who'd listen to this would know, but a lot of people who are new wouldn't know. I would be home in New York for 40 days of the year. And the rest of the time was spent out in the world in, you know, 29 countries working with thousands of children. And that was what my life was dedicated to.
Wow. It's interesting to hear, you know, this innate desire that you feel to be in service and then reflect it back to you of like, well, you have to make sure you take care of yourself. Like, how are you going to provide for yourself?
I haven't always been the best at that, to be honest. I mean, I'm the human that'll have $1 and I'll give you 50 cents. But if you really need the 75 cents, I'll give it to you. You know, like I've been doing the work. I think all of us as humans who are givers, you know, and empaths need to do the work to make sure we're whole, you know. And I had shared with you before, and I'll share again in this podcast. I went through a divorce that was that basically had me start over from zero financially. The one thing I was able to keep was my apartment that I had for 17 years. And but I basically started my whole life, like everything that I knew and I loved and working with these children completely was stripped of my life. And I just got very quiet. And, you know, that was coupled with the time of the pandemic. So there wasn't much that one could do to go out in the world. And I had a couple of friends say, like, you know, keep fundraising, you can do projects. But I felt at the time, Black Lives Matter was happening. You know, it was like very aware and in the forefront. And I didn't want to ask anyone for what I wanted to do because I knew what I needed to do was going to come a couple of years later. And I knew there were more important focuses happening in the world at the time. And additionally, I knew I needed to heal. You know, there's, for those of you who have ever been through divorce, even if you have the most healthy divorce, it is something that just shifts you and changes you in a way that you can't really ever prepare for. And it took me a good 3 years to heal completely. And I was never going to bring my broken self around the children that I want to give to and that I want to serve and that I want to, see heal and support. I don't believe in healing yourself when you're giving service. I think it's really important for us who are aware and conscious to do all the work that we possibly can on ourselves to get ourselves whole before we go out in the world and serve those who are in greater need.
Can we talk about the relationship and divorce?
Of course. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm an open book. I've stayed quiet, just because I don't think that that if I don't have anything to contribute in conversation, I usually tend to stay really quiet. But I learned a lot, and there's a lot too that I want to share so that people can know about relationship, about how important it is to be completely transparent in relationship and honest 100%, and that there's no way a relationship can win if those things aren't there. So I've also opened up now to the idea of sharing. And with you, I would share everything. So
yeah, your divorce and the end of your relationship was nearly reality breaking for me as well, because I had positioned you and your former husband as my relationship role models.
I know.
I looked at how you two served the world, as you had mentioned, going to that church and praying to use you as a vessel and to be able to work with the children. And then this opportunity came to you, and that opportunity presented
through a partner.
In part with a relationship.
Yes.
It came with a significant
hand in hand.
And at the time, that story, it was a dream come true. Wow. You wanted to have an orphanage, and here was this man who was traveling to, 27 countries, working with 13,000 plus children. It was like, you want that? I'm going to give you an abundance, so much, even more to it. I can see of the delight. It was almost, there was this, because I saw also too a deal. One of the things that is so special about you and so unique than anybody else is that your ability to love is beyond. It's wild. Anytime I would, take you to events or parties, I learned to hug more people because of you. The way that you are so present and so caring and so thoughtful and so encouraging. And so here is this angel that meets this, which I view as a former Wall Street man who was finding his salvation through helping children and working with the children. And
he was doing the work for sure.
He was doing the work out in the world, but I wouldn't say necessarily on the inside. And it's contradicting a little with charity work, because there's sometimes it can be done to feed the ego, and sometimes it's really like someone's soul journey. And I think with your former love, it was both. But here I was, with Feminine Weapon Day, we had elected the organization that the two of you were working on together, that he was the founder, CEO, and here you were now in relationship as a full-time volunteer for that organization. And we would give 100% of the net proceeds would go to the kids, throughout, not all of that. Now, in the past couple of years, we shifted the relationship. I'm not going to say necessarily cut ties, but yeah, we definitely shifted the relationship because I found myself not being able to be real with him. Like, as you mentioned the word transparency, I was it's almost, my parents are one specific journey. I still remember, at 17, my dad sitting me on the steps and telling me he doesn't love my mom anymore. And then I went on a whole journey with that, but he was always my mom and she was always my dad. And so I'm stuck, I'm the children. So I'm stuck. I'm there through the whole entire life journey of this healing process. And here was you two beings that don't necessarily, I mean, you had thousands of children together, but not any one particular child that's tied to the two of you. And me, it was, I couldn't understand. And since then, I've actually had a really hard, I've been hearing lots of stories of humans. And I'll say, I guess these particular stories of men who come into relationships and they have lots of money and they're so scared, whether they have had a divorce prior to the second relationship, they're so scared of losing their money. And we actually, as we were turning on to this podcast and pushing record on it, I was sharing about somebody else in my life right now who didn't have money and then made a lot of money. And I heard her say recently that she's never been more fearful of losing money once she got money.
Yeah.
And I see this happening in our most intimate relationships with other people. We're so scared to lose it that we then withhold and we're secretive.
Yeah. And you have almost like a front and can't be 100% yourself and transparent for reasons of fear, and the fear is sad because a lot of the time it's unfounded, a lot of the time it's just something we create in our head. And it doesn't matter sometimes how much work someone puts in and how much therapy they go to and how many years they dedicate to trying to figure it out. If you don't get out of your own way, if you don't learn how to realign your priorities in life, your fear will always take you over and the beauty in your life will always go away, and that was something that I was witness to, and I just could no longer stay beside. And I thought about it. Because as you say, how it shattered your vision of what your belief was of a good, healthy, beautiful couple doing work in the world. I knew that it was going to do that for so many people, including thousands of children that we serve together, and I had said, can we do, a video? Can we do like a video chat and a video call with certain people and maybe like do something together to explain what happened, just so that there wouldn't be like a big question mark in anyone's mind, and the thought initially was that we always worked well together so that we would continue the work, and I think it just got too difficult. And like the personal side, came into play. And I understand. I mean, he had been through 2 divorces. It's this being his second. It was my first. And I think it's really difficult. Like, I think we would have had to have been the healthiest humans like in the world to maybe conquer all the personal stuff and put it aside to be able to continue to work together. And some people can, but in our situation, it wasn't the case. And I understand, like we're all on our own journeys. We're all doing the best we can in this life with the tools that we have, to proceed and deal with certain situations in life. But I knew also that it was going to hurt a lot of people, like the demise of our relationship. And so I just trust time, I trust that time takes care of a lot of things. And sometimes there's nothing that can be done and nothing that can be said, and just time needs to move on. And I finally feel that I'm in a place where I'm healed and I'm ready to do this work again. And I don't know how it will go. I know that whatever comes my way, I will 100%, that whatever comes my way to give to children and other humans, to support people who need it, I will do. But I am hopeful that there will be people who will join me on this journey to continue to give to the children that I love and those that I haven't met yet, and that I can keep my promises that I made to these children and to myself and to God and the universe and to other humans of being this vessel to do good. It's not about me. I think I have this deep belief that we're all each other's angels, whether we're good angels or bad angels, or, I just think we're here for others. I just believe that. And I think it's our duty as a human being to do what we can to when we're done with our journey on this earth in this lifetime, to leave this earth a little bit better than it was before.
Thank you for the work that you do out in the world. And I want to acknowledge too, it's been beautiful to have witnessed since the relationship ended, of how you have discovered yourself in a healthy, thriving marriage. Congratulations, a new marriage with a beautiful soul who, that your previous relationship with was someone who is many years your senior, and now to be in a relationship with somebody who is younger than you as well.
Many years my junior. I know. And it's interesting because having been in my whole life of everybody that I've ever experienced in a relationship, I've been with the gamut. I've always been, with very young and a lot older and everything in between, and every culture and every industry, a career that they could have. I've experienced a lot of humans, and it really is humans, we're really such individuals. Sure, there are some stereotypes and this kind of thing of an age or a culture, but the fact of the matter is, we are all individuals, and my experience right now with this human that I'm so blessed to call my husband, my partner, my supporter, he loves like I do. It's the same. And we've had so much we've experienced in life. I mean, when we met, I was totally broken, and I said no to any kind of relationship after entertaining it.
Yeah, I think he proposed pretty quickly.
Yes, he proposed after we met in October. And then in January, he had proposed already, asked me to be his girlfriend, and 2 weeks later proposed in front of his entire family. And I was not prepared. My family didn't know he existed. A lot of humans didn't even know I was going through a divorce at this time. I mean, it was literally in the summer we separated. I separated from my last relationship. And in October, I met this human. And very quickly, we just started to speak on the phone every day for 3 hours. It was not anything I thought would become a love relationship. I just thought this human was this amazing person and this whole complete person. And I was shocked at the time. He was 23. And my mind would never have entertained that. I was 37. I think I was 37. And I just wouldn't have entertained a 23-year-old it just wouldn't have crossed my mind, but it was this whole person, educated with multiple careers, took care of his family, totally had it going on, and I let it just be us for a long time. I didn't share with anybody because I didn't know what would happen. And I just was kind of in this discovery. And I also knew I had a lot of healing to do. So he proposed. I said that I couldn't marry him. I stayed 1 month living with him in Mexico, and it was lovely, actually. And then I came back to New York to work, and the pandemic happened. I fell into a very deep depression. I let him go completely from my life. And in November, on Thanksgiving Day, I called him up, much healthier. I was much healthier and ready to have him in my life. And I just said, let's be friends. And after 3 phone calls, it was so obvious that we were so deeply in love in a very new way for me. And I decided, he said, I fought it. And he's like, just let me love you. Mm-hmm. I know I can love you how you deserve to be loved. Just let me love you, and we tried to have children. We've been trying since we have been, it's been something that I never wanted. I never had a partner in my life I wanted to have children with until he came into my life. And we've had a really difficult time. We've been 2 years trying and unsuccessful. And we had a miscarriage in March of this year of 2022. And we've been through the gamut together. And it's just this very intimate, strong bond that we've created together. And now I didn't even share with you, but I had a meeting 3 weeks ago in Mexico. And we're starting the adoption process. And we're probably going to adopt 2 children. And we know the orphanage that we're adopting from. And within the next 2 years, there'll be, kids around that we'll be the parents of, and we'll be, showering with love. And it's just really exciting. Like, it shifted all our pain of not being able to have children so far to now being excited for what the future holds and getting ourselves ready to be in a position to welcome and give the best to the children that will be ours,
I love thinking about the two of you coming together and where he was at in his life and where you were at in your life, because you have a man who's 23. And then, as you said, you were at 37, had just quote unquote lost everything from the end of the divorce. So you were starting fresh. And so when you're coming
even
into
financially, like
that's what I mean.
From zero.
Financially. So you're coming into something and you're essentially creating something together. And what I see out in the world oftentimes is, dating in your 30s plus is that people, are coming into those relationships with a lot of stuff. They've already accomplished X, Y, and Z, or maybe they've already had this, other traumatic relational experiences, and they don't have to be traumatic, but other relational experiences. And then it's where I see of the process, and it needs to be, I don't mean it needs to be anything for anybody. It's your journey. However, but when a relationship can be established in a conscious way, it's almost the wiping clear of these threads, these strings of attachments to the projection of who you once were. And you're essentially changing yourself to come into an alignment together and being fully transparent. You said, I remember you sharing with me at once, when you and your ex-husband had came together, you never talked finances. He never. And you didn't want to impose.
Was his fear. Yeah, I knew he was terrified, that I would be with him for the wrong reasons. I think some people in his life that were close to him had said, that I was a gold digger or something like this. And it was just so opposite from the human that I am, like I took him in. A hurricane happened and he lost his home, and I took him in, to my space. And it's when Yair, his name's Yair, my love, when Yair came into my life, and I said, we decided for him to try life here in New York, because I knew everything about his life in Mexico. And I wanted to see if he would even like it, if he would feel at home in my world, and I knew he would come with a certain amount that he had set aside, but to record his music that he loved. I was okay at that point when he came in January of 2021. I had enough to pay my bills and eat. And so I could cover us. And I didn't ever have a qualm, a problem, an issue with supporting us, and in 2 months he was already okay. And there was, he was generating enough work in Mexico to be able to bring back to our life. And we had an abundance, we didn't have a lot, but it was an abundance for us. It was enough, more than enough for us to do what we wanted to in the world and to be together. And it was just so interesting because I'd had a wealthy husband. I didn't know what he had until post-divorce, but I had just what he had that I knew of his salary. It was wealthy for me. And we didn't have a lot, and it was so interesting because, I think he took care of everything, that whatever our budget was enough to just cover the bare minimum. And now I have what I've created, which is a lot less than what I thought I had before. And we had an abundance. And it's just so important to really come together and to just share and to become a team with your partner and to get out of your way. You know, I could have had all these fears of everything I'd been through. Like it was a lot. And I chose to not bring my past into this beautiful, fresh, new relationship. I wanted it to have its own life and its own discovery, you know, and I think that human beings, when we get hurt and we live really hard things, we tend to bring a lot of our lessons with us, but sometimes they don't serve us. Sometimes they hinder us and they might keep us from the relationship that we should be in. You know, had I not just gone for it with this young man and seen, I wouldn't be living this like beautiful, healthy love that I have now, you know, this like very joyful, supportive love. And honestly, being in it, like everyone deserves this. Just we all human beings, even if we haven't gotten it right in relationships in the past, we all deserve this kind of love, you know, this equal, supportive love.
In doing the work that I do, there's a big, there's always a big conversation around polarities, masculine and feminine energy, and even the gender roles that people play within relationship. How does that show up for you?
So I am, you know, what one would say old fashioned in love. You know, I believe in chivalry. I believe in being courted. I just was raised in that. My parents have been in love for over 40 years. They still, you know, date, they go on dates. My dad still opens my mom's door. You know, I also was raised in something that probably mirrors the romance of the 50s, you know, not as far as the roles that, you know, the woman had to serve the man and, you know, women couldn't work, none of that. But as far as the romance, that's my parents were just very romantic in like something that mirrored the 1950s, which is how I grew up. So I think because my partner is from another culture, which I'm Mexican as well, but I'm very American also. He is from another culture completely. It is more romantic. It is more of this old fashioned courting, like, you know, yeah, sure. There's a lot of, you know, Latinos are known for being mujeriegos, like womanizers and this kind of thing. Sure, that exists. But there is something in Mexican men where they're raised to treat a woman like a queen, if they're raised well and if they're healthy. And so because I believe in treating my partner like a king, you know, it's a very even balance. Now, with that being said, I have a lot of masculine energy. You know, I like to be able to direct things and produce things. And I think being a woman, I don't know if you feel similarly, Christina, but I feel because we have been quieted so much in the world that I feel like it's really important for me to have a voice, you know, and I've lost my voice at moments. Like when my divorce happened, I became voiceless. But I do think that in life, it's very important for women to be able to express themselves and to be able to say no to things and to be able to get what we need. So I have I have a lot of feminine energy, but I have a lot of masculine energy. Like when I was a child, I used to wonder, like, should I have been born a man? Like I just was very comfortable in all things male. And similarly, my partner is very much a man, but he also is like, carries a lot of feminine energy, you know, like he's maternal almost, like he's fraternal, but he's like very warm and loving and showers humans with love and has no problem like hugging and kissing his guy friends. And, you know, like he has this very, you know, warm part of himself that's also very feminine. So I think we complement each other a lot, you know. I've been very used to being the nurse for every partner I've ever had and the one that caretakes. And he, because he has this energy, so takes care of me, you know, and so for us, I feel like we have a lot of equality. Like we kind of just mirror each other and like support each other. And with that being said, I don't know if you've heard this quote of Jodorowsky, but he says, a healthy love is one that is, can be, it doesn't have to be face to face and all encompassing and almost suffocating. It can be, like you're sitting back to back, supporting each other's backs, connected, but also being able to live your lives autonomously, like knowing that you are supported and that it's like this divine love, but a divine love doesn't need to change anything about the other. It just loves and accepts, and so that's been a very consistent theme for us, how we love. It is never to control or take one another over. It's always just to support,
As you were speaking, I noticed my eyes getting teary because I'm just so happy for you to have found somebody who is willing to love to the depths in the way that you do for so many people. So adoption, I love also too that you're considering adoption. I've noticed that through the years of doing the work with Arte More and through Feminine Open Day and Arte More is Dilia's organization. And I have learned a lot from you about what's happening in the orphanages and around the world. Mm-hmm. And one stat that is always stuck in my head is that there are over 150 million orphans worldwide, and there are 80 million children living without a single parent alive. And a lot of times I've noticed that when I would share that with other people, it was almost like their eyes would like gloss over and they would be like, oh, where's the ketchup? Like it was just so much. It's so big and it's so much. And even in the conversations when, abortion gets brought up in politics, I find myself sort of just rolling my eyes like, what is going on? Like, do they even understand of how many children aren't even experiencing love? Like, no, don't. If somebody doesn't want to bring a child into this world, please let them have that autonomy to choose that experience for them, because I believe that all of the chaos that's happening around the world stems from humans not being born into a loving system, a family, people who are there to see them and to accept them and to love them. And also too is, with all the abuse that is this cycle of abuse that happens over and over and over again, I find it challenging that, I always picture this, and this might go on so deep, but, is the murders or like the mass murders of just seeing somebody and picturing and me being able to speak to them and saying like, no, don't do it, like love. And they're like, they just look at me with a blank stare, like, what is she talking about? Mm-hmm. What even is that? And being able to provide these children with that sense of love, and also the relationship education and the healing programs and the art programs. I'm proud that, throughout the past years, we've brought them the computer systems and education, but I feel that is now being taken care of. And I think underneath of all of that, I even just wish that I grew up in an educational curriculum that taught me relational skills and conflict resolution and communication and authentic relating and erotic wellness. My nephew right now is in 6th grade, and he is in that month program in school, that 1 month
that you get for sexual education.
Of sexual education.
It's terrible.
Yes. And so I wanted to first hear is like, what are you seeing from, and doesn't need to be right now, but in your history of visiting the orphanages and working with the children? And I'm curious to hear, because even hearing the dark stories is actually what gives us awareness into that's where I was touched by, is when you would share these stories of the kids. And it would pull me in of like, oh my God, we got to do something about this. We have to help.
Mm-hmm. Well, the one story probably that's most shocking, well, there's so many, but one of the ones that stands out, speaking about abortion rights for me is I worked for years at a home for adolescent mothers. And I would see, 10, 11, 12-year-olds pregnant. And most of them had been raped by a family member, their father, a family friend, an uncle, grandfather. And what a body at that age, they had even as young as 9 pregnant. And what a body has to go through with pregnancy at that age will be absolutely detrimental to the child that is having this baby. I mean, that is shortening a lifespan and maybe taking a life, the life of this child that had no way to defend themselves against rape. So it's very complicated for me. And now, that being said, I've known several orphanages where, the nuns they're very pro-life, they believe in it, but they're doing the work. Like, they will literally take in anyone's baby if they don't want them and take care of them and do their best to find them a home. But a lot of people have opinions and they don't do anything. They don't do anything to support these extra children that are these unwanted children being born in the world that will have no food, no home. It's just so, unless you've traveled the world and worked with these situations, with children in these situations that are orphaned and abused, you really don't know what's going on. Like, you really have no clue the suffering that goes on. I mean, I've been in orphanages with 300 boys, begging me for a family, begging me to take them with me, and it's heartbreaking. It's really heartbreaking. And then, this particular orphanage closed because of a government rule that they didn't have enough capabilities for handicapped people to access the building, and it closed, and they were completely dispersed from this beautiful orphanage into who knows where, and I've been to countries where a government official will say, oh, we don't have orphans anymore, and they close all the orphanages, and then the kids go who knows where. And these things really happen in the world, so there's a lot of work to be done. Like, I have chills on my body talking about it because I'm just now delving in again, right, to work with these children and give of myself however I can. And I just feel like if we can save those kids that are being trafficked, even one, if each person could just do one thing, it will make a difference. It will make a change. I work with sex trafficking survivors, and I've seen the strife psychologically of a girl who's just been saved, who's lived in a cage her whole life. I've seen a girl with half of her face, been blown off by a shotgun because she tried to escape her captors, because she was being sex trafficked, and she escaped with her best friend that she met while she was being trafficked, and they killed her best friend right next to her. Like, I've seen these things, and they're things that forever have marked me, and I share, as difficult as they are. And I've had people say, like, oh, Dilia, like, sometimes, like, in a way, not these words, but like, in a way, it's off-putting, right? Like, we don't want to see so much or hear so much, or what would the child feel about you sharing, But I really do think it's important, to be aware, to never use these children to get something, not for pity or they're human beings. And honestly, quite honestly, any of us could be in their situation. Any of us could have been born into another situation, or any of us could have, not had one moment where we were kidnapped, or it could be any of us, right? So for me, they're very real human beings, not statistics. And I just hope that all of us continue to wake up and come together in a way that really gives change to the world. Being in the industry for so long, like having been in this foundation before, not Arte Amor, but the Orphan Starfish Foundation that I was with my ex-husband, working with other organizations, you see how much of it is business, and it's wild to know some people take $1 million salaries in 501c3 nonprofit work. When you are that good at business, why don't you start a business that you can make your money in, and whatever you raise with your 501c3 with this nonprofit work, let it really go to what it's meant to go to. Like we have the capability now, humans have the capability to have multiple businesses and streams of income. Like if you're that good at business, 100% you can build something and then really just dedicate yourself to just giving, So yeah, I just hope more people like you and I come together to really make a shift. We know we have enough to live off of, but there's still so many more people who need it,
Yeah.
What are you going to do? I just always think this, like, what are you going to do? Like at the end of our lives, we can't even take one penny with us, So it's just something that I think about a lot.
Yeah. And it's interesting too, because, I've oftentimes, like, as each year going into this production of Feminine Weapon Day, and there's been years, as you know, throughout the journey that I think I'm remembering year 5 where I was staying in this like strange sublease in Hollywood, Los Angeles before the production of the show. And I barely had enough money to feed myself. I had $40,000 in debt. And it was also the same year that we had reached $40,000 of giving to the children. And oftentimes society will tell us that once you make it, you can give. And right now, the economy is going through a really challenging time.
Oh, yes.
And if we were to really take in that belief and think that way and think, I can only give once I have enough to give, once I make more money, I'll give. We're never going to get out of this. And I remember also each year, one of my best friends and close friends, Georgina, who's been a part of Feminine Weapon for years. I remember one year she looked at me and she could see the stress that I was feeling in going and doing this production each year, because it was also that month I generally would stop doing anything that would provide me with income and give it all and focus it all to the kids. And then I would be in this mindset of the less I take, the more I can give to them. So I need, and I also knew that I would always be fine. I am
a loved person.
I'm a loved person. I'm still in my journey. Like, I can't say that in this moment that I personally have created a salary for me yet, but I feel that is coming. And so I remember Georgina saying to me this one year, like, Christina, why do you do this? Like, it was almost like I think, oftentimes, sometimes questions that other people are giving us come from their own, their own experience of how they would navigate
and their own learnings.
Like, sidebar, I remember a few years ago, I was to lunch catching up with somebody in the We Deepen network, and he said, "How's your fertility?"
Oh boy.
Yeah, I was about 38 at the time. And he said, "How's your fertility?" And I remember thinking, so I answered the question, in my higher self, like, actually, I'm feeling good. I'm trusting. I have faith in the universe. Whatever is going to come my way. I haven't ran and froze my eggs, and I'm in this state of trust. And then after he left that experience, I sat with that question. I became angry. I'm like, I hope he's not running out and asking everyone, other women this question. And so the next time I saw him, I went up to him, I said, hey, what did that come from? And he's like, oh, I'm challenged with my own fertility. He was older than me, and he had thought he wanted to have children one day, and he was worried about his timing. So he was projecting his question onto me. So in these, states of, as we're navigating giving and serving out in the world and our own value, because there's a lot of conversation of like, what's your value? Like, hey, like make sure you take care of yourself. And I'm looking out my window right now in my parents' neighborhood with big houses all around, and I'm fine. Like, you're fine. You might, the pressure on you to make a living for yourself is real, and it's there. And we do live in abundance, and abundance is beyond the brain comprehension of it. It's all actually activated through the heart. So in those times, deal within the strange end of the marriage with you having nothing and your ex-partner being a multimillionaire to some extent, whatever his financial situation is. It's hard to reconcile. And it takes a level of deep trust, because as you said, when we die, what are we going to have? Mm-hmm. Like, even the debt that you're now out of, the $40,000 as of yesterday, I've paid off my personal debt. Well, I think it's important to know, for those who don't know, it's not that you ever sat around. You have never stopped working, and I think you knew in that moment, people that may not have anything to do with your actual work and your, the salary you would get or anything. You knew people who would want to give to something that you could do quite quickly, and it wasn't a reflection of you and the work that you're doing, because you were always building yourself and building Deepen and so dedicated to community and to connection and to helping others reach, their best lives. So now you are now the benefits are now coming in for you, but you put yourself aside. You really have done this work because you believe in the betterment of humanity and connection, and you know how important connection is. And you're very rare. A human being as special as you and as giving as you is very rare. I was going to say real quick, like you and I, we know we're okay. Yes, I started from zero financially and career-wise, but I still had my history of the work that I've done that has value, and what I've seen in the world that has value. And I had an apartment and clothing, and there are people who don't have any of that. So yeah. Let's talk about the complexity of fundraising. Okay. Because it does, and through that experience and through the past decade, you have to navigate rejection and also realize that it's not personal rejection. And sometimes and you have to get good at that. You have to get good at a no is a just fine. Fine. And also to alleviate judgment, because it's hard to also not judge with inside that you're like, what? You can't even give it to the children. And to know that people have all different causes that they want to dedicate themselves to. Of course. I feel very passionate about that. This is the number one most important cause in the whole wide world. If you were actually to invest in children to receive education, art, healing programs, relational skills, that the animals would be fine, climate change would change, all the cancers, anything else. Because all of those children would take care of everybody. They would all take care of everybody. Exactly. They take care of the world. Yeah. And yeah, sometimes, when I would, go around and be like, buy your ticket to Feminine Weapon Day. It's, $150 a ticket. And people be like, is there a promo code? And the same people that would ask, for a promo code, they'd be like, what should I wear? I got to go get my nails done. And I'm like, just don't get a mail at Air One. Like save, like just cut something out. And I know that you've seen a lot of, behavior that probably surprises you, being who you are in the world and realizing, oh, shit, I'm different.
Yeah, definitely. But it is true. Like what you said, people have specific causes that they're drawn to and things that they want to dedicate their lives to. And I think human beings think they have to stick to, one area in order to give a lot in general. Like, I think people tend to like to give to specific things. And also the way 501c3s are built, you can't really veer too far out of the scope of what you file for what your 501c3 will serve. Mm-hmm. So there's that as well, So, but really, I think, you're a matchmaker, you help people with finding their partnerships. And I think it's the same in the nonprofit industry. You have to it's a little bit of matchmaking. Like you have to find someone who is in alignment with your heart, who is in alignment with the work that you do, who is in alignment with the way that you will roll out the work. And all of those things. Like it's just a little bit of matchmaking, and people will either come on and be a part of something that I know, and that whatever comes in for what we do will go to what it's supposed to go to. There is no worry about that. And sometimes, yes, of course, like some organizations are so large, they do have a large staff and they will have to fund the work, the people that do the work, that will have to happen, of course. But yeah, I just think that there are a lot of no's. My best friend from childhood, Christina, her mother has passed away since, but she gave me one of the main rules that like kind of guides my life. And she would always say to me, she learned when she had gone to, I believe it was a seminar in business, but it applies to life. You can have 1 million no's, but all you need is one yes. And having that as my foundation, it just helps you move on. It just helps you not spend the time on the no and just focus on those that will be, yes. And just hope that your work and what you do in the world will make people who maybe said no pay attention and want to become part of it.
So true. So January 30th, 2023 is the 10th annual Feminine Weapon Day.
Yes.
We'll hear in just a few hours whether or not we get the desired venue, the venue that we have our heart set on in Austin, Texas.
Oh, and what lovely people at this venue. So hopefully, fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. And for the first time, if we do get this venue, the date, January 30th, was not available. So it will be hosted on February 2nd, which is a Thursday. So we'll celebrate.
It's a better day to celebrate anyway.
It's a better day to celebrate.
And we're going to celebrate January 30th. It's just Feminine Weapon Day's celebration will be on the 2nd.
Oh, I know. We're going to be celebrating Feminine Weapon Day with selling more tickets on the day. Preparing.
Of course. So I have my work cut out, right? I will be very transparent in what all of this will go to. And I think you mentioned a little bit previous in the podcast, but we should announce that Feminine Weapon Day Deepen will be offering relationship courses to these children as well. Like life affirming courses to these children and bringing people along that can help them in their journeys long time, and how to have all of these so they can be, complete in their adulthood, And so as much as arts, like the art, art saved my life. Art is very healing. Through art, you can express. And that going hand in hand with being very conscious on making sure that these children have tools to use in their lives through these arts will be a game changer for them, and it will also be very true to the work that you do in bringing you and making this, a true partnership.
Yeah. So Feminine Weapon Day, the funding that comes through, we will be giving that to Art Day More with the intention to bring relationship education, art healing programs to the children that Art Day More serves. And we essentially, when you go to wedeepen.com and you step into the network, can log in, become a member. We're going to be rolling out some more courses there. You'll see all the experiences, but those experiences generally, it's people who are attending or typically while the younger generation is coming in, but it's usually 25 plus. And those programs, they're tantra workshops, ecstatic dances, improv clown church. We are going to be bringing those to the children. So if you're a facilitator, there will be an application process that you can get approved to go and go work with the kids. And what Delia is also talking about, this online educational portal, is We Deepen is sponsoring Art Day More to build out an online a library, yes, for the kids and courses and a network and community for them in their own separate space, like what we're building for We Deepen and all the grown-ups.
Where they will be able to connect with children from all the countries that Art Day More serves. And it will be very exciting to see how this rollout, looks and what these relationships look like and the support systems that they'll have now. And they won't be going out, at 18 alone anymore, which happens sometimes. And also, I want to put out a very organic ask. I am scouting to find new programs for children. If there's an orphanage that or an organization that that does great work, I'm looking for new projects and new partnerships that we may be able to serve more children, and that includes here in the U.S. I want to work more with Indigenous communities. I want to work with a lot of the refugee children that are coming, who don't really have, much support and very many opportunities and safe spaces. So those are things that are also in the forefront. And all these children who, live below the poverty line, which we have so many in this country. So.
And if you were to speak to the foster care system in the United States, versus or how it correlates with the orphanages, because I know in the United States we are a foster care system as opposed to an orphanage system. However,
yes,
on Indigenous land, there are orphanages.
There are not orphanages. There are also foster care systems, but there are community centers that help the children that are in foster care. And there could be a lot more. But there are group homes and halfway homes that are focused on children. And those would, technically be doing the work until a child gets placed into foster care. But I will say, in now knowing that we're going to adopt, I thought, what if I had a giant house in New York City, full of children that I could adopt and could be supported by humans that I love? What would that look like?
Why New York City?
For now, New York, I'm here in New York, and I'm saying maybe I find the funding to find a home that I could take in several children, and guide and educate and,
Oh my God. I would love that.
Yeah. And it would be full circle to what I've always wanted. So that is
and you have the home of all the kids, and then we can bring the programs to those children, and they can bring the programs out to others.
Or maybe other, couples or individuals would also want to adopt, and we can all live in this, space, this building or whatnot together, and just have a very healthy, holistic, safe home for these children. It's just throwing it out there. It's just like something that I was like, I could do that.
I love this. In the previous podcast, 61 with Charles Eisenstein and Aspen Veronica, we played a game with Charles and asked him.
I love me some Aspen.
We played a game and we asked Charles his viewpoint on 4 famous humans, one of those being Elon Musk. And he replied and he said that, you know, generally when you ask somebody what happens in the future, they begin to predict. Their mind goes into prediction. And where Elon, he is essentially creating the future. He's creating his reality. So he speaks what he is creating. And I felt that exercise just now of what we have been doing is we've been creating this future. And for years, we've been establishing it and seeding it. And now it's coming into fruition. Yes. And all the experience that we've gotten has been so important. And even the challenge and the, that icky stuff, which essentially was the catalyst for growth, brought us to have a deeper understanding of how we serve.
Absolutely. Like I feel that, you know, for the foreseeable 5-10 years, my work will be everywhere, you know, like my work will be in many places, but maybe after that I will have the time and the bandwidth to be able to build something too, that, you know, something that we could have, you know, this home with children, just something that came to mind.
And Feminine Weapon Day, as I see, will happen in multiple cities, all on that
of course,
same January 30th. And we're going to raise millions and millions and millions of dollars to support these efforts.
It can definitely happen. And you're growing, and the Deepen community is growing. And, you know, it's so beautiful to see it. You know, you have a tangible community that is communicating and connecting and arriving, you know, and it's really beautiful to see, Christina. Like, I'm so proud of you and all the work that you've done, and, you know, these platforms that you continue to build, and thank you for existing.
Thank you for existing. Thank you for sharing yourself and your voice on this podcast. And if you're listening, please do come meet us in person. We're going to get a hotel block in Austin, Texas around January 30th. The event might be February 2nd. And so stay tuned. Check out more information at wedeepen.com. We would, again, love to meet you in person. And if you are remote and you can't make it to Austin, Texas, you can definitely contribute. Join the host committee to be a member of the host committee. The thing that we ask is that help us raise $1,000, your contribution. Go to your friends and family and raise $1,000 and jump in to support this initiative and provide the children, the most vulnerable beings around the world, with a sense of love.
Thank you. Thank you. I love you.
I love you too. And thank you all for listening to another episode of Deepen with Christina. When you do go to wedeepen.com, click on the member portal, the calendar, and in the top right-hand corner, you can create an account. You will get alerted. There's a weekly digest that goes out every Thursday with updates of what's happening with inside of the community. Get on that list. Come and join us. While I love recording this podcast, what I'm so excited about is being in person with you. Again, if you do like this podcast, please do subscribe, like, rate it. It helps more people find it and helps us to continue to do this work. Until next time, I love you.
Love you.